Coming up on In-Flight Snack, an awesome conversation with Fox producer Fran Morison. He's going to be producing the Jets game this week against the Atlanta Falcons. So we talked about him, what he expects to see, some of the inside the industry stuff, some of the behind the scenes stuff that are really cool. He told some cool stories. Some of the stuff that, like, as someone who works in the industry and is trying to make a career in this industry, I didn't know and I'd like to know. And it's cool stories. So I think you guys will really enjoy it. And then obviously talked about the big news this week. Aaron Rodgers came back to practice with the Jets. So incredible story there. Bilal and I talked about that. And then, of course, we also talked about this game against Atlanta. Jets are in a desperation spot. They have to find a way to win. They're home underdogs again. Can they pull it off against a team that's been up and down this season in the Atlanta Falcons? All that and a whole lot more coming up right here on In-Flight Snack. Stay tuned. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The holiday season is off and rolling with NFL in full stride and NBA and NHL hitting the mid-season form. Bet Online is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info with up-to-the-minute sports wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. Bet Online is the top spot for everything pro and amateur sports. And not just for the big four, Bet Online has info available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time for almost any sport that's played, from MMA to international soccer. I know some people who like to get on those international soccer parlays at about 3 a.m. that are played overseas. Don't be one of those people, but if you are one of those people, go to Bet Online to get all that info so that you are ready and prepared to win some money and you don't throw it all down the trash. Head to Bet Online today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, BELIEVE, BLEAV, gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts.
Let's go empty. Shotgun Fitzpatrick. Underneath. Powell catching current. Powell stays on his feet. He's gone. Touchdown. Jets. Below Powell.
Hurts facing a four-man rush over the middle. It's intercepted. Picked off by Tony Adams. Adams on the run. Breaking tackles. Tossed down inside the 10. Tries this year. Wilson looking to the end zone. The two-point try is good.
Takes the snap, drops the throw on 4th and 8. Well protected, looks left, heaves a bomb down the middle of the field. It is broken up by Jordan Whitehead. The Jets are gonna win it.
Let's make sure we play like the New York Jets. Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Yo, it's Quinn Wins here, and you listen to In-Flight Snack on the Believe Podcast Network.
Welcome back to In-Flight Snack, a New York Jets podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. That's Bilal Powell. I'm Rami Lavi. Today is Thursday, November 30th. We have Jets, Falcons, and we had a special guest today, somebody who's going to be working the game on the TV broadcast for Fox Sports, Fran Morison, who's the producer for the Jets game this week. He's been working in the NFL for a long time. Great guest. We talked to him for almost an hour about the Jets. So awesome conversation. That's going to be coming up in a minute. But the big news in Jets land, and I want to, before we get to him, I just want to get to you on this, Bilal. Aaron Rodgers is back. He practiced. And for me, here's how I see it. As much as everyone, the evolution of it is like this. People are either mad at Aaron, like, oh, you're making it about it yourself. People are either ecstatic, like, oh my God, Aaron's here. Or people, and that's really, people are so extreme. That's really the both sides of the spectrum. Everyone's so extreme about everything. I don't see it that way. This is the guy I love. This is the guy I wanted to be here. I was sad when I saw him that he wasn't playing. So to see him out there just gives you a little bit of hope. And I don't want to be negative about it. I want to be positive. And I think he should come back this year because here's how I see it. Say the Jets turn into Denver over the next couple of weeks and rattle off 3 wins in a row, which they can. They're playing some bad teams. They can do it. Of course he should come back. You're giving them an opportunity to go to the playoffs. Of course he should come back. Say the Jets are completely out of it, which I think is more likely, and they only have 5 wins, when it's time for him to potentially come back. Still, I want to see it as a Jet fan. I was robbed of it all year. I want to see it. And the worst case scenario, say he gets hurt. He's already said he's willing to do the rehab again. And even if he did get hurt, he'd be back to start the season next year. I don't see how this is a negative thing. I see it as a positive. New day, new me, Bilal. I'm happy to see Aaron on the practice field. How about you, buddy?
Man, when I look at those videos and those pictures of him being out there, back out there, I never want to see anything bad happen to a player. You want to stay positive, and there's so many different scenarios and factors that happens. If they win, come back, Aaron Rodgers. Come back. If they lose, stay out, get healthy, be ready for the offseason. I'll say it, like I said it before. I'm glad that you had a change of heart. I don't know what happened.
I just want to see
Did the
something
Rangers
positive,
win or
like,
something? Like
the Rangers
what's
were awesome. Rangers are
okay?
always
So
awesome.
that's what happened. Then that's why you have this change of heart. But I will say this though, and just looking at it from a player's standpoint to the fans, I've seen guys run in straight lines coming off of ACL. That's it. They look good. They look like they're ready to go, but they're not ready to go. I've seen guys have other injuries that come back. They look good running straight. They look good without contact. They look good without changing direction. So it almost makes you think like, yeah, the part of him being out there in pregame, throwing balls, walking out the practice, being in a uniform, it gives you this sense of hope. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves of thinking, even if we do decide to go off on a 3-game win streak, that Aaron Rodgers is still guaranteed to come back. So let's not hang our hat on that like we did earlier this year, thinking he was going to win the Super Bowl, and then we just didn't have a plan B. I've seen guys that get the okay to run, they get the okay to throw from the doctors, but we haven't seen him step in the pocket. We haven't seen him really throw a deep ball. Like, all those things are a factor when it comes to getting back on the field and evaluation, let alone the mentality, his mental. Defensive lineman, 300-pound defensive lineman, diving at your feet, knowing that you just had this injury. You deep down knowing that you're probably not 100% healthy. You're just a couple weeks maybe in the progression of the second stage of healing and getting the okay from the doctor. So as now this Jet fan, former player, I tell the fans, do not hang your hat on Aaron Rodgers coming back next year, even if the Jets win or lose. Rami, I like you change your heart though. I do.
Look, we talked yesterday on the phone about how you watched Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks with the Dolphins, and it looks like they are extremely just having fun in practice, and it seems like the Jets are not, because they're down and everything's a drag. If just to lift the spirits of the team alone by being out there, you saw Makai giving him the big hug. You see the vibes are back up with him being out there. And I can only tell from social media videos that I see from reporters and stuff like that. So I don't know what's actually happening behind closed doors. But do you think there's some kind of lift that just seeing him out there gives the team?
It does. And as players,
like, it gave me a lift. That's honestly,
yeah,
why I turned my heart.
You have to stay
because
positive.
I saw him in the jersey, in the red 8, like that's, and the helmet on, where he looks like the Great Gazoo or whatever it's called. That's why my heart all of a sudden was like, man, I can't hate this guy anymore. I love this. This is a guy I've been such a big fan of.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to see that, man. That just lets you know what type of guy he is, because he could easily say, hey, I got my money, and I could just wait till the offseason. Like, he really wants to win, and that's what you need.
Yeah,
that's what you need in the building. That's the mentality that you need in that building to change the tradition of that Jets organization, of what it's like to have a winning mentality. That's what you need to see.
We're turning you positive.
Yeah. On that flip side of seeing Aaron Rodgers out there, yeah. But as far as hanging our hat on him coming back, and even if he comes back, who's to say that he's going to be the same Aaron Rodgers? Like, there's so many things that go into making a good throw. Can he step into his throw when a guy's rushing? Like, all these different things. We'll talk about that, but we're on the fact that it's as a player that went through a serious injury that was career threatening later in my career, you like to see a guy who's, who a veteran like Aaron Rodgers who can come back from this. And, I'm a Kobe Bryant fan, and I remember when Kobe tore his Achilles and he walked back out and he hit his 2 free throws. That was my favorite athlete of all time. I want to see Aaron Rodgers come back from it. I do not want to see him in his career this way. When he saw Tom Brady go to Tampa and win a Super Bowl and had a chance to win the second one, had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers not blown a coverage to leave Cooper Kupp wide open on like a long 3rd down conversion. So I want to see
Forget about
him
one
win.
coverage. Cooper Kupp did whatever the hell he wanted in the second half
Well,
of that game.
if you look at it, the safety had his eyes in the backfield and Cooper Kupp came wide open. If they tackle that, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are back in the Super Bowl for the second year in a row and possibly could have had a chance to go on and win it because of that defense was crazy. And we all know what Tom Brady can do with a good defense, just like Aaron Rodgers. That's why we were so excited to see him teamed up with a good defense. Like, to me, I want to see Aaron Rodgers. Not only do I want to see him win for the New York Jets, I want to just see him come back. I want to see him come back and improve himself, because I know what's hanging over his head right now. The fact that everybody thought, oh, well, they're comparing him to Tom Brady right now. And he hated the fact that he went down to 4. So, yeah, it uplifts guys. It's a long season, and you need that type of motivation. You need that type of inspiration, jokes, laughter, because it's starting to get cold. Like I told you, it's starting to get cold and not winning. It can sometimes get frustrating. So, just to see that positive is good.
We talked about keeping it fresh and keeping it positive with Fran Morison. So let's kick it to that interview right now. Fran was awesome. Here that is. Joining us now on In-Flight Snack, a very special guest. He's been in the industry for a long time. He's the one who delivers football to you, the fans, on Sunday, and he will be producing the Jets game for Fox Sports on Sunday against the Falcons from MetLife Stadium. Fran Morison, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think the first question I have, just as someone who I'm a little younger, 26 years old now, trying to work my way into the industry. I produce games. I've produced Yankee games. I've produced some Ravens and Orioles games. And I'm also working on as a talk show host and things like that. It's always an interesting story for me personally to hear how you broke into the industry, how someone gets. It's a tough industry to break into. And that's my first question. How did you get your start in this industry?
I'm lucky and have continued to be lucky. In 1991, I went to Fordham University in New York City. I went to the Manhattan campus. In 1991, a guy I went to college with, who's still in the industry as well, said that we have to do an internship. And I wanted to be a coach and a teacher. I didn't know anything about television, had no inkling about, I watched a ton of it and I watched sports. And he said, well, we can do an internship at WCBS TV in New York in the sports department. I said, seriously, we can do that? Like, we can do that? And it was 1991, and it was fantastic because it was Warner Wolf was the guy. So we both got the internship. This guy's name is Mike Roig. He's still a director at ESPN. And we would go in 2, 3, 4 days a week, and we would intern at Channel 2. And as everybody, or maybe not knows, but Tuesday, NFL players have the day off. So they recorded a show every Tuesday called Giants 91. And Phil Simms came in every Tuesday, and he was the co-host of the show with Rock Rote and Phil Simms, Giants 91. So imagine a 21-year-old me, senior in college, standing at WCBS having a catch with Phil Simms. And I'm like, just don't drop the ball. Keep your hands like a diamond. Get it in. Like, do not drop a pass from Phil Simms or you lose all respect from him. So it was great. And I got to meet Mel Allen. I got to meet Mark Messier when these guys would come in and do shows. But more importantly than just meeting stars was seeing how things are done. There's so much you can do in a classroom, but the way to see it is the way that it's done. And I got to see how highlights were made and how shows were put together and how copy was written. And it was sensational. And then from there, the producer back then at WCBS was Cliff Gelb. He then said, well, maybe I'll call some of the people at CBS Sports and introduce you to them. So I met a couple of people there and then started working on the weekends. a guy named Chris Svensson, who's a director at CBS now, directs NFL. He would hire me. And I remember he said, this was before the internet or anything. He said, call me Mondays at 9 a.m. and then I'll have you come in and score the games. And that first day I worked, I think I made $75. You would have thought I made $1 million. I'm like, holy cow, I made $75 going in to be at CBS Sports. So again, before the internet, this was when CBS had Greg Gumbel, Terry Bradshaw, two guys, a half-hour pregame show, not 6, 5 guys all over. So
I think now they're up to like 12. Yeah.
there's guys all over the place, man. So everybody would write cards. We would have to call the press boxes. Oh, hey, this is Fran from CBS Sports. What's Mark Bavaro today? Oh, okay, 7 catches, 82 yards, touchdown. And we'd have to get the information. And then at the 2-minute warning, we'd collect the cards, bring them downstairs. And that's how all the scores were done at halftime and the stats and notes. This was before the internet. So I know this is a foreign concept to people that, only know it, but that's how I started. And I'm lucky, and I mean this with all sincerity. They pay us to travel. They don't pay us to work. I have too much fun, and we're all too blessed because every day is awesome. And those $75, like I said, I clutched onto it like it was $1 million because I haven't done anything else since. I haven't done anything else since than be in this television industry, and it's just too much fun.
Fran, you mentioned two things. You mentioned former players, and you mentioned it used to be just a couple. Now it's just you see former players everywhere. It's almost like the coaching industry where now you're starting to see more former players get involved with coaching at the NFL level. You talked about Phil Simms. It's crazy because I have a story. Matt Simms actually was my quarterback at the University of Louisville.
All right.
And I'm seeing him get involved with media. And then of course, Chris has been doing it for a few years now, and Phil's been doing it forever. What former player do you see right now in the industry that has come in the industry that's just on the rise, that's just doing a good job, no matter where you put them? You put them on podcasts, you put them on in studio, play-by-play, post-game, pre-game, all these different things. What player do you see right now on the rise in the industry?
So when you say on the rise, I mean, he's already established, but you take a guy like Joel Klatt, right? That guy could do play-by-play. He could do the analyst. He could do sideline. He could do whatever you want. And he's doing the top games, but I think he developed you pick up those skills along the way, and you can do those things. And if you're looking on the basketball side, Lisa Byington is a woman I work with. She could do play-by-play. She played. She could do sideline. She could do everything. So I think it's like football, right? It's like any sport. The more you can do, the longer they keep you around. I work with Jonathan Vilma. I'm blessed because this is my 4th year with Vilma, and he's ridiculous how smart he is and his work ethic. And he came from doing some studio stuff. He had done a little stuff for NBC and ESPN, and he had never done a game before 2020. And now that guy's just cooking. And you're right. I mean, you look at guys and you say, like, who could do this? Because it's a great question, because sometimes if a player's made $200 million, you go, well, why is he going to want to do what you guys do? Well, because it keeps him close to the game. It's as close as you can be. The broadcast booth is as close as you can be without coaching or playing. And the big fish out on the horizon, the guy who's coming is Brady. That dude's coming. People say, oh, he's not coming. He's coming. You're not turning down that money, and he's not going to turn down the challenge. But I look at a guy like Okereke, right? We talked to him last week. We Zoomed with him. That guy should be doing something. He's talks it, he looks it, he's got everything. So I'm always, when we meet with players and coaches, I'm always asking myself, like, who could do what we do? Who could have fun and do what we do? Matt Ryan's interesting because we worked, I Zoomed with him or met with him 50 times. I mean, how many times? And now he's doing it. I'm always kind of asking myself, could that person do what we do? Some guys want to do the studio. They want to sit in a nice warm studio and feel comfortable. But the dudes that want to do the games, that's the guys that I like, just because that's what we do. So I want to see the guys who are going to get up on Friday, go to the airport, go to practice out with the teams and stuff like that. So you're putting 3 days of your life away. So it's a discipline, but there are guys out there that can do it. And some guys will ask about it. When we meet with a player or a coach, they'll ask, hey, how'd you get into this? How'd you get into, kind of like what we're talking about right now. And I always love those guys because they're interested and they have their eye on it.
What's so interesting, you mentioned a few names, obviously Brady, we'll get into that a little bit later. It's crazy with Catalan and Ryan and Tiki. That's a 3-person booth. That's hard. That's even harder. And that's what I want to go to next, because Jonathan Vilma, one of the toughest parts, I think, of doing that role is the analyst knowing when to cut in, get out, make your point quickly, get out. It's such a tough role to play. And him and Kenny seem to have an incredible chemistry. Obviously, Vilma's a former Jet. You guys are doing the Jets game this week. What has it been like to work with them, especially Kenny? I just saw him last night at Madison Square Garden doing the Ranger game. I'm pretty sure I'll see him tonight if he's doing the Knicks game on radio. And then he goes and does a game on Sunday. Just his schedule and what a professional he is. Obviously, he grew up with it. But what's it been like to work with the two of them?
Kenny, I think is a cyborg. I know he's a person. I know he has skin and flesh and bones, but he's a cyborg, man. I don't know how he does it. He did last week. He did, I think, 4 games in 3 days. Last Friday, he did the Rangers, Philly, from the studio in New York on the radio. Put down that headset, went down to the Garden, put on a suit, did the Knicks Friday night. Saturday, did Rangers, Bruins radio from the Garden. And I was standing next to him in the radio booth with a press pass, kept my mouth shut, didn't say a word. Then we crossed the river to the Jersey side, and we did Pats Giants on Sunday. And the thing about Kenny, and he said it recently, what we do is kind of like an open book test. And it's a great analogy because nobody puts in more time and reading. And a lot of people say, hey, what do you do? A lot of it, what we do is reading. Like here, right here, I got my rosters here. I got my stats. There's so much preparation. And he's so good at that. And he's so smart. And he can put things together. And he also loves the stories of if a player's uncle was a coach in the NFL, he'll know those connections. He's just spectacular. And he's also great because he knows his role. A great play-by-play person is like a great point guard. They're just going to put it up there and lay it up for the analyst. Kenny's not going to throw around terms like there's a simple cloud coverage or there's a simple crossing route. That's not his area. He won't do that. And what he's great at is giving Jonathan room. And if you notice, I think one of the coolest things would be if you could watch the guys as they call the game, because they're good at literally the nonverbal communication of letting each other have their room and knowing, hey, you jump in here or you jump in here. And then a guy like Vilma, he's so good at preparation. And like I said, his first year was 2020. And he would call me, and which was, by the way, in itself hard. Imagine being a first-time analyst and you're coming in during COVID. Yep. There's nobody in the stadium. It's so like silent. So that was hard. But Vilma would call me on a Monday night and say something along the lines of, hey, with 8:23 left in the second quarter, I think I talked a little bit too long and may have stepped on Kenny. Like, that's the thing that Vilma, he's real detail oriented. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Those two, there's 2 different things. Talkback, which you guys know, which is that you can hit the button to me in the truck, but the audience doesn't hear it. That's one thing. They, between themselves, have a talkback. So either in commercial or let's say, just hypothetically, let's say Vilma says, not a mistake, but Kenny wants to add something. He can even tell him something in his headset to each other, even though they're next to each other, without the audience hearing it. So everything is about trying to enhance what they do. And like I said, it's not about mistakes, but it's about helping each other. But those two, and another thing, I don't have to go get them out of the disco at midnight. Those dudes are working, right? Those dudes are working. So they're constantly working, and we're all trying to have fun at the same time, but they're always working. And that's what I love about them, is they play off each other, right? Kenny's very detail oriented and a little bit more serious, but he can have fun with Jonathan, right? Play-by-play guy handles the who, the what, the where, and the when. The analyst handles why and how. If you keep it that way, keep it simple, that's their success.
Yeah. Hey, Fran, we had Quentin Williams on the show. I say about a month ago, and he was talking about preparation, and he was talking about he wasn't excited to have his brother just because it was his brother. He wanted to win. And when you talk about preparation and you talk about this chemistry between the analysts and the play-by-play, what is a typical week like? Like, players show up on Sunday and the fans just scream, but they don't understand that real preparation. Like, is it you're calling Jonathan, hey, I'm gonna come in at this, and do you know anything about this guy? Like, what is the preparation like day by day leading up, travel, all this stuff?
I'll tell you. So let's take this week, okay? Not week 1 and not week 18. You know what I mean? Let's take this week, okay? This week, Falcons Jets, okay? So we've known this assignment for probably a couple of weeks, right? They give us our assignments 2-3 weeks ahead of time. So what I've done ahead of time is figure out when we're going to meet with or Zoom with the teams. So for example, this afternoon, 4:00, we got some Falcons. Tomorrow, we got the Jets. So those are the in-person meetings with the players and coaches. But if you start Monday morning, the first thing I do is watch my game from the other day, which was Patriots-Giants. Bang, get a nice big bucket of coffee, right? Sit down and watch the game. And the most important thing is to be honest with ourselves, right? What did we do well? What didn't work? What could I do better? And it's never perfect. It's live television, right? It's never perfect. Like I always say, if you ever think you've had the perfect broadcast, retire, dude, because it's impossible. This isn't like a movies where you can do another cut or do another take and you can't tell the players, hey, wait, can you line up and do that again? Like, no, you got to be ready. This is live stuff. So there might be there's always a play where I might say to myself, well, why the hell did you replay that, man? What'd you do that for? Or maybe there's a play where I said you shouldn't have replayed that and you should have let, so there's always something that we're trying to work on and grade ourselves. But I think the most important thing is to be honest, to be really honest with ourselves. And then then you're reading every week. The amount of information we get on the teams it's incredible. Not just what the teams put out, it's stat services and the NFL capsules and all this stuff. Okay. Then I watched the Falcons game, Falcons against Saints. I watched that. Then I'll watch the Jets game against Miami. You want to watch each team's last game, get your names, get your numbers, start to say, okay, this is what these guys look like in uniform. Okay. Oh, this team plays a little bit of hurry up. We got to be ready so that you can tell yourself on Sunday, okay, you better get to replay quick because this team's coming. Okay. So you're constantly doing that. Then we'll be texting each other on group texts. Hey, just for example, let's come up with something on the AFC or let's do an NFC storylines because there's some coaching changes. So we're always kind of pressing each other. Shannon Spakes, our sideline reporter, Brian Lilly, our director. It's all of us dialoguing. But then what we do is similar to what you did, Bilal, when you played, is on Wednesday. You guys would come in, I'm sure, every Wednesday. Vilma always said, I came in on Wednesday and asked Sean Payton, how are we going to kill this team Sunday? So that's what we do. We have a Zoom on Wednesday, 1:00, all of our group, producers, directors, ADs, and we all go through the schedule, go through the storylines, go through last week. Hey, what can we do better? What can we do this? What can we do that? Always looking ahead. What tape pieces do we have this week? What graphics are we thinking about? Hey, let's look ahead to next week. We're doing the Saints against the Panthers. So, hey, wow, the Panthers just had all this stuff. So it's constantly game planning, like what you guys do. Okay. Like players do, constant. But Wednesdays are a big day where we have our Zoom. Thursday, today is Falcons Day, right? We're going to talk to Coach Arthur Smith, who I love. We're going to talk to Desmond Ridder, and we're going to talk to Bates. Then tomorrow's Jets Day. We're going to talk to Saleh. We're going to talk to Boyle. We're going to talk to Q Williams, and we're going to talk to Coach Hackett. And then we're also going to talk to Coach Nielsen from the Falcons tomorrow because he has a commitment today. But so then that's information. That's just for us. We don't record it. We don't broadcast it anywhere. That's just background information of stuff that we can use in the broadcast. Now, somewhere along the line, a coach might say, hey, don't use this for TV, but we're going to, somewhere along the line, somewhere in the game, we're going to do an onside kick, or somewhere here, we're going to take, and that's developing that trust, right? It's developing the trust that we have with the team and they have with us, where they might say, hey, Vilma, don't tell anybody, but first play of the game, man, we're going deep. Okay, great. That's good stuff that we have in our head to know. And that's the trust that we have. And then it's learning a little bit off the field about these guys, right? Talking to the players. For example, this week is My Cause, My Cleats. So every guy we talk to, we're going to ask about their cleats, what their particular cause is, get some shots of them. And then another really, really special thing. I'm not sure if you have a relationship with this guy, Bilal, but the coaches from both staffs, a number of coaches are going to run the stairs Sunday before the game in honor of Napper, Coach Knapp, because he coached for both these teams, and it's to draw attention to the dangers of texting and driving, because unfortunately that's what took his life. So that's a cool thing. So there's little things that we're always looking out for in game planning, and it's constant. Good ideas come from everywhere and everybody. And here's another thing, like you got to be prepared. The expression empty the bucket. You have to be prepared in case it's a lopsided game. Hey, let's not forget, we got playoff pictures and we got this. And the other thing, the other sort of thing out on the horizon is we have a monster double header game, San Fran, Philly. Let's promote that. Let's do some graphics on that. Let's show a little tape of last year's title game. So it's constant, right? It's always prepping and looking forward. Kind of like when you played, right? You got to look back and see the film and correct stuff, but you're constantly looking forward to this week.
Yeah, and I mean, if you ever run out of topics, you could always just make up a sideline report. We heard about that. So just kidding.
I like that. That's pretty funny. But look, and like we kid around. I kid around with the guys sometimes. I'm like, if I run out of ideas, I'm putting you on camera. You come up with something.
Exactly. Well, it doesn't sound like you'll run out of anything. You guys are obviously well prepared. You mentioned Tom Brady before. I kind of want to take it in a different direction. It seems like Brady's coming, but you guys, I would say, allowed Buck and Aikman to walk, two of the best to do it, because Olsen and Burkhardt were so good, and they were so good together in the Super Bowl. And I think baseball misses Joe Buck a little bit more than football does. That's my personal opinion, just as far as watching the World Series. Like, does the World Series count if Joe Buck is not broadcasting it? In my opinion, I don't know. But again, I'm younger. I've only experienced the World Series with Buck calling it, pretty much. But at the same time, you have that incredible relationship and that incredible chemistry with Olsen and Burkhardt. Are you willing to, if you're the boss at Fox, are you willing to just look at that and say, hey, let's bring Tom Brady in? He's Tom freaking Brady. Who cares that we have this chemistry? He's going on the A broadcast. I'm sorry, Greg Olsen. Goodbye.
I don't call the shots. I respect those who do. I think it's, it's like a big free agent. When someone's out there, you want to bring them in, right? And I don't think it's going to be goodbye to Olsen. I think he'll just be doing a different game. I don't want him to go anywhere, right? He's been fantastic I know there's these reports that he wants to coach the Panthers and all. I don't know anything about that.
Well, he said he would.
He said he would. I don't know Greg.
Bilal said he wouldn't, by the way. I asked Bilal. Bilal said he wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Absolutely not.
And I think once you've had it, now guys have done it, but once you have a taste of what we do, why would you want to go back to, being in a building at 5 a.m. and getting out at 10 at night and grabbing antacids all day and your stomach churning and all, because it's that constant will to win. But again, every guy's different, because Greg's so young. Not even Greg, just somebody. Let's say they did a few years of what we do. They could always go coach and then come back. You take a guy like John Lynch. John Lynch is a terrific broadcaster. Now he's a GM. That dude could win a Super Bowl with the Niners and go broadcast again someday. So I think now these guys have these different paths. But I think Olsen, I hope it's not goodbye. He'll just be doing a different game. And I think that Burkhardt And Brady, look, Tom Brady's not going to allow himself to not be good. I don't think he'll ever allow himself to not be good at anything. I would imagine that he's already planning. If you know a guy like that, he's probably already got a 10-point plan to being great, right? So it's going to be interesting when he gets here. And Olsen does a really good job, and he'll be with Joe Davis, I would imagine, and they'll be terrific. He just won't be doing the Super Bowl, but we'll see how it comes. But it's going to be interesting because next season we have the Super Bowl. So Brady's going to be it's baptism by fire.
In New Orleans too, right?
In New Orleans,
That's gonna be a wild one.
Should be
I don't think people realize how cold it is in New Orleans either, though. Like, you think it's warm around that time, and it's actually freezing. Fran, I had the opportunity to go out to the boot camp, the NFL boot camp for former players, current and former players. They take about 25 guys. And
which year did you do
it? This year, actually.
I was there.
Yeah, I was there.
I was there.
I was one of 25, and it was to me it was different. I had to put a lot of respect on what you guys do. I didn't know that the preparation part of it. I thought it was just show up and just no ball, and that's so like not right. It's so much going into that. And then, trying to get into the industry, just trying to figure out as a former player, what do you want to do? I love talking about ball. My wife was like, this is a good opportunity for you because, I'm tired of you talking about football. Go try to get paid for it. Do something. So, I had an opportunity to go out there, and then you just start to see all these cuts from all these big companies, everybody just getting laid off. And, it's almost like the NFL, at what point do they let you know, like, you're not coming back? Or, as a coach, some coaches, I think in the middle of the season, they kind of have an idea that they're not coming back. And Rami and I talked about, coaches kind of like slimming down the preparation when they know there's not a future for this team and, winning and they're just trying to get through the season. Like, is there ever a heads up in that company when they're trying to bring in a replacement?
So I'll give you a couple of things to think about. There was a great quote from the former NBA player Rick Barry, right? And Rick Barry years ago worked games, I believe it was for CBS, and he put it well. He said, "This is how TV sports goes. This is what they'll tell you in TV sports. Great job, great job, great job. You're fired." And it's cold, but it's real. And he's right. He boiled it down, right? It's a business. But in terms of NFL, I would say this, that the Super Bowl is usually the cycle. So if you have the Super Bowl every 3 years, that's when a network might say, okay, now it's time to look at ourselves. Where are we? Who's working well? Because you want to try and keep crews together so that they can learn and be good. So, for example, this is our 4th year together with Kenny and Jonathan and Shannon. But like you just mentioned, we don't have the Super Bowl this year. CBS does, but Brady's coming next year. So what is that ripple effect? I don't know. It's above my pay grade, and God bless the guys that make these decisions because they are big decisions. But usually that Super Bowl is kind of the cycle where you look at yourself and say, okay, where are we going? Where are we at? Now is a good time to take a look. So that's kind of the way it goes. But then, for example, right? Lynch left. Chris Spielman left. So things happen where a guy may get a job, doing something else, and then they go. So there are those unnatural cycles. So it's always kind of like in sports, right? Keep your head on a swivel. You never know what's cooking. But usually that Super Bowl is kind of like the big cycle, except for us this year when there are some decisions to be made. And selfishly, I'll say it. I don't want anything to affect our group. I like what we have. I know there's going to be ripple effects on other crews, but I like where we're at. It's like, just go look somewhere else. Don't worry about us. We're good. But that's kind of the way it goes. And in terms of the boot camp, I was with Chris Myers and then Burmeister. So we probably did different group or whatever. But I think that thing's invaluable because you get to meet some, for example, Dante Stallworth's coming to our game this week because he's good friends with Vilma. So he's coming. He's going to sit in the truck and watch what we do. If you want to come out sometime, sit in the truck, watch what we do for a little bit, whatever. That's it. It's the constant watching. But the boot camp is awesome because you get to kind of see what's out there. And guys get to see, oh, like you said, oh, wow, you don't just show up and talk ball. You got to, have, even in a little limited setting like that, to work with a guy and put a headset on. And what's it like to have a knucklehead like me talking in your ear? And you got a play clock rolling, and there's a play clock, and there's there's replays coming and graphics and that type of stuff. So it is challenging what we do. It really is.
What I try and do is I try and stay out of my host's ear as much as possible when I'm producing talk shows. I think, like they say, I'm the enhancer of the show. So my job is to just help them and get in, get out quickly if I have something to say. Otherwise, just, hold it and try and do it myself and, keep it, have them be prepared.
Yeah. And more importantly, I think, or as important with me getting in their ears, is when Kenny or Jonathan tell us. So Vilma might hit the talk back and say, hey, listen, after this play, stay on cue, Williams. I don't want to replay, just stay on cue. That means that he's got a story that he wants to get out or a piece of information. Because then if I don't listen to them or if I just slam something in, then I've interrupted what they want to do. So ultimately, it's a two-way street. If we have to support what they want, I need to try and see the game the way Jonathan does, but I also have to support him. I got to know what he's going to want here and there. So if he says, hey, after this play, I'll take a graphic on whomever it is, then I got to, be ready and listen to what he says. In fact, I'll give you a little, I have a little sheet that we do, and it's pretty cool because I give it to him as well. But the way the coaches have kind of like flip cards, I have this. So on this side is all the tape stuff that we do. And then on this side is all the graphics. And Jonathan has this sheet. I make him a copy of this. So he, during a commercial, he can remind himself, oh, that's right, we have a graphic on whatever, the Jets when they face 3rd and long. So that's how we kind of remind each other. And I don't hold it up like a coach, but I have it nearby because we always want to have those little things next to us to get the thoughts rolling.
So you talked about watching a lot. I don't know if you watched these two, but big Fordham guys, Michael Kay and Mike Breen, were they around that time that you were there or earlier a little bit, I imagine?
You know what? Breen was, I can't remember Kay's years, but
I think they were together because I know they're
those
great
guys
friends.
may have been
now.
around. Yeah, I remember hearing them and seeing them. And I also remember not a Fordham, but growing up in Forest Hills, Queens, the Bird, Iron Eagle. So when he was on the stand, my buddies used to call Iron Eagle at night, like at midnight when he was hosting the show and whatever. So so
those are the shows that I screen the calls for. So
yeah, it's great. So, but yeah, there's a lot of great. There's a lot of Fordham people involved, and Green is ridiculous. And Kay, these guys have carved these amazing careers for themselves. Yeah, and they've worked at it, and they've put in the time.
And with just going back to Kenny for a second, because you talked about the preparation. I imagine his week is crazier than anyone's. It was kind of funny to me when Tony Romo this week was like, oh, we need the game off because we did 2 whole games last week. I was like, that's hilarious. And then Wayne Gretzky goes on the air almost like going back at him, like he went on a podcast this week. Like, are you reading any books these days? He's like, yeah, I'm reading Kenny's book. I'm reading, what is it? A Mike for every season or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you look at the contrast between those two things, and it made me laugh just as someone who kind of works it.
I always loved, like I said, when I was coming up and I did the graphics or what they call a broadcast associate, I was lucky enough, privileged to work with Pat and John, right? And I always loved Thanksgiving and then doing a game right after because I would ride the bus. I would ride the bus with John. So let's say we did a Dallas game, and then on that Sunday we were going to Green Bay, or we did a Detroit game, and then we were going to Kansas City or whatever. We would ride the bus, man, and we'd be eating turducken and just having the time of our lives. So I love doing 3 games in 7 days. It was thrilling. I know it's a different time now, but that was always awesome having the Thanksgiving.
Tony, speaking of Tony Romo, I felt like he started off as like a fan favorite, and then I've slowly been hearing, oh, now Tony's getting annoying and all this stuff, and people like criticizing him with Tony. If you knew so much, then why can you get win playoff games and all this stuff? And you're gonna deal with that, especially with people critiquing everything that you do each week. But just from your standpoint, how do you stay on top of your game? Because I feel like, as a veteran playing and I'm gonna try to round it around football, you slow down as a veteran, and kids come in, younger guys come in, hotter names, guys out of the fresher names. They come in with this energy. Like, how do you, doing it for so many years, how do you keep doing it in the way that your game evolves and you see the way the game has changed from when you first entered the industry? Like, how do you keep evolving with the industry?
I'll tell you this. It's a great question. But the way I look at it, and what keeps us fresh is, like we said, there's no script. You don't know who's going to win. You don't know who's going to lose. You don't know who's going to make the big play, who's going to make, back in the day when we grew up, GOAT was the guy that messed up. GOAT didn't mean greatest of all time. So the GOAT was kind of like the loser. But I think that's the amazing thing is you don't know. I have no clue what's going to happen between the Falcons and the Jets this week. Who the hell knows? But that's what keeps it fresh is the unknown. And then I think it's like he's mentioned, it's the players themselves. It's the player. I love them. I love the guys who put in the time. I love these Bijan Robinsons and Q Williams and these guys who have fun and these guys who make it interesting. And back in the day, like I said, when I worked with Pat and John, it was the Cowboys, right? It was the triplets, and then it was Brett Favre, and then it was Steve Young, and now you get these other, now you have fun. Last week, a guy like Tommy DeVito, what a great story. So it's the players, man. It's all about the players, and I don't mean that it's not about the coaches. I love coaches too. It's awesome, but it's all about the players, and these guys make it fun and they make it exciting. And a few weeks ago, we had Lamar against Cleveland. That game was insanity. And it's just the freshness of it. And then even a nerdy thing like we don't always have Skycam. Well, this week we have the Skycam. So that view gives you different, like where's Jesse Bates? Where's he hanging? So you're always learning something of what to look out for. And I think that's what makes it so interesting is just it never ends because there's so much talent out there and there's so many cool players. And when you get to cover Patrick Mahomes, or when you get to cover, Stafford, Lamar, these guys are awesome. I can't wait for Bijan again this week. We did the Falcons earlier in the season, but that dude's awesome. I love that guy. He's young and he's exciting. And he had a quote yesterday. He was on Good Morning Football, and I wrote it even down on my phone. We're going to have a quote of it this week that we're going to put up a graphic. He said, look, off the field, I'm this happy guy. But when I get on the field, I humbly, respectfully want to destroy anything that's in front of me. And that's awesome. I love that stuff. It's the players, Bilal. It's the players that keep making it exciting because they keep changing and they're bigger, faster, stronger. And it used to be remember back in the day, it was run, pass. Run on first down, run on second down, pass on third. Now it's dudes are lighting it up first down. They're throwing all over the joint. So
someone else slinging it. Yep.
Yeah. So you have to match the pace of the game. And I think because the game keeps changing that we have to keep changing. And that's a great question. And that's what keeps it, I think, fresh. And it's funny. I've had a couple people say to me, don't you ever get bored of it? Don't you ever like, why are you watching the Yankees like on July 10th? I'm like, because if I stop watching sports, I'm done. I got to be done. Like if you stop being inquisitive, and that was another great quote from Rupert Murdoch. He was at I sound like a name dropper, I know, but he was at our seminar, and he said, if you stop being inquisitive, you die. And I think that's the inquisitiveness of, I'll call Vilma like, hey, we had a team recently. I'm not even going to say who it was, but we had a team recently that said, the quarterback told us, he said, well, this team, the other team, he said, they have a bunch of tells on defense. And we're going to be looking at, he wouldn't tell us what they are. Obviously, he's not going to give away the game plan, whatever, that's fine. But so right after we're done with the Zoom, I called Vilma. Okay, what are those tells, man? What are we talking about? What are we looking for? So it's that stuff that keeps it interesting. Is you got to keep being inquisitive and looking for those things. Why does this play work? When was the last time that team did that? Oh, this Jets team, you talk about their defense, are they a championship defense? I don't know. Like these are all the things that we're going to discuss. And it's the freshness and it's the players. And that's what it's all about that keeps it interesting.
Well, good luck. We've been trying to figure out this Jets team for about 11 weeks now. So good luck with that.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I think, look, I mean, I'm not going to break any new ground here, but nobody, and if you took the biggest Hollywood script writer on the planet, nobody would have written this script for the Jets. 4 plays into this season, your quarterback's gone.
Other than my dad, who's watched them for 40 years. So yeah.
when Aaron Rodgers sat down and looked over to the sideline, you knew his face.
Oh, you knew.
That's why I love him, by the way. You know why I love him? Because I'll produce his game any day, because his face shows you the emotions, man.
100%.
Happy, sad. So you knew right there when he looked over to the bench, it was like, wow, oh my God. And then the whole Zach Wilson, look, it's timing and circumstance. I hope that kid goes someplace and has some good stuff happen. Nobody wants to see these guys not succeed. No, only a lunatic wants to see a player fail, right? So and Bilal, it's timing, circumstance. If he can go someplace else and a situation happens and he learns, you know what I mean? There's things that happen. And then there's defense. Like, let's get into it. Are they a championship defense? Are they? I don't know. Let's see them on the field. Now they got a good test this week, against the Falcons team who's first place, tied. They just beat the Saints. They kept them out of the end zone. They kept a pretty decent Saints team out of the end zone. So this, I think, is going to be, you got 5-6 against 4-7. So it's not like it's 10-2 against 2-10. I think these are going to be evenly matched teams. And Tim Boyle, look, we don't want to come on TV. Hi, everybody, welcome. And Tim Boyle's 0-4. Like, nobody wants to see that, right? Jets fans know about their team.
Can you give us his UConn stats real quick?
We always look at, in our crew, we always look at it this way. This is how we do things. We always say, don't dump on a team. What is to be gained? So that's what we talk about is let's make a graphic of here's 3 or 4 areas that are a concern for Robert Saleh and what he wants to improve on. Because if you turn on the TV and you're just dumping on a team, it's awful, right? And I always look at it this way. Maybe I'm nuts, but if you're a Jets fan, you're pretty well in tune with what's going on in your team. So we want to enlighten you to maybe the Falcons. So the Jets might go, oh, man, okay. A Jets fan might say, oh, wow, okay, they got this guy, Drake London. I forgot about him. Or, we can't assume everybody knows everything about every team, right? So that's what we kind of try and bring is not dump on teams, look at the positive, delve into a little bit, get into some categories or some topics, and here's another great thing, Bilal, that I love about Vilma, and I'm sure you've learned this when you did meetings with TV production people. Vilma's first question always is, hey, coach, what are the positives you took from last week? Because you can't walk in and go, hey, oh boy, that last week, that was terrible, huh, coach? That flail Mary, holy, like you just don't want to drag teams through the mud. So Vilma will always ask a coach, what are the positives that you can take? Because there are. Every team has positives. Nobody stinks at everything. Let's be honest. So that's kind of what we want to look at, and hopefully on Sunday that you're going to see.
Apparently the positives last week were that Derek Carr doesn't know that linebackers and safeties exist, but that's fine. Listen, it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one this week, right? With Sauce against London and obviously Bijan against CJ and Quincy. That'll be fun matchups for you guys. One more for me before. Yeah, one more for me because you've given us a ton of time already. And then Bilal, if you have anything else, you can go ahead. Do you have any just one behind the scenes story that stands out further than any other story that's like, oh my God, this is a crazy story that maybe you haven't shared?
One time on Black Friday, we lost John Madden in a shopping mall. Is that count?
that works.
Does that count? Yeah. So, we were just talking about this the other day. We were in Kansas City, and it was literally Black Friday. We had done a Detroit game the night before. We took the bus to Kansas City, and Johnny's big guy. There's always kind of crowds, and he was a little, with the bus and no airplane and the whole thing. And
John Madden bus.
yeah, and he didn't, he a little claustrophobic, and he didn't like elevators and all this stuff. And we were eating at this restaurant, and right as we were leaving, the owners of the restaurant wanted to say hi to him and talk to him for a few minutes. But then right across the aisle in the mall was this Sharper Image, one of those stores that sells all those crazy things. So we go across the way, and we're kind of like checking out remote controlled stuff and kind of chilling and looking at all this nonsense. And all of a sudden, the producer, Bob Stenner, legend, he goes, Hey, where the hell is Madden? we lost him. And he was a little bit unhappy because he kind of got mobbed by some people. And we're looking at cars and playing around with toys and stuff like that. But that was always fun. And look, the behind the scenes stuff, again, it comes down to the players, right? When we used to sit and meet with Brett Favre, and that dude was just exactly what you saw on TV, man. He'd come in just wearing a pair of shorts, eating peanut butter out of the bucket with his fingers, man. That's the cool thing, is you can't fake it. And these guys, I love these. Aaron Rodgers, great. The guy's great. Like, you say what you want about him. That dude is cool. And when he gives you time, and when you're zooming with him or hanging with him, it's awesome. But those are some of the fun things, like with Pat and John, and those are some of the fun moments. But yeah, it's always an adventure, and it's always something interesting that keeps it fresh.
Well, you mentioned Aaron being cool, and as a player, you can only go off of what the media portrays a man before he comes to your team. So you have all these assumptions if you never met him of how he acts. So I get you on that. It was a couple guys where I'm like, okay, he's actually cool. Percy Harvin was one of them, like one of the coolest dudes. And, he had like a, kind of a bad name in the media, starting from Florida and coming up, and he was actually cool. But, I was talking to Rami about this before the Raiders went to Las Vegas, before the Rams and the Chargers went to LA. I only missed one game in one stadium, and that was Soldier Field my entire career. I played in every stadium except Soldier Field. What's your favorite stadium to pull up to, the easiest to get in, access, your favorite city? Because I love traveling, and that's why I love the game that I did, because of traveling, getting the chance to go see different cities. Like, what was your favorite stadium and city, restaurants?
Yeah. So here's some cool things. And again, a lot of this comes back to when I work with Pat and John, but we did a game, I think it was 95. It was Cowboys at the Raiders and up in Oakland. And first of all the people waiting for Madden's bus to pull up, all the Raiders fans. And when he got out of the bus, it was like the Beatles showed up, man. It was awesome. They were like nuts, lunatics. And I mean that in the nicest way. Like, they went crazy for him. And I remember, like, we walked through the stadium, we were downstairs, and the locker room was small in that stadium. He's like, boys, we won a Super Bowl out of that locker room. Like, that little locker room right there, we won a Super Bowl out of there. So, you don't always have to have the biggest and the best and the fanciest. So that was kind of a cool memory. There's, in terms of places I like to go, Green Bay. Love pulling up to Green Bay. There's just something cool about it. Lombardi was a Fordham guy. The Packers, that whole thing, man, that whole thing is awesome. We were there a few weeks ago, unfortunately, when Kirk Cousins hurt himself. I love going there. I used to love going to Candlestick. Nothing against the new place, but Candlestick was dope, man. If you were doing like a Cowboys, Niners, doubleheader in November, each team was 10-1 back in the day. Candlestick was totally cool. I love going there. Soldier Field We did the last game there before the renovations. So that would have been about 2001. I think the same day that the Tom Brady Tuck game was the Bears played, and then the next day they started demoing it. They started, renovating, whatever. But that place was totally cool. I think they're getting a new one now. I don't know why, but Soldier Field was awesome. In terms of restaurants, Atlanta, South City Kitchen. Oh, that's my favorite.
I'll put that in there. South City.
It's right around the corner from the Four Seasons.
What about Wingnuts in Buffalo? That's the one that everyone.
Buffalo is fantastic. Again, fans insane. Kansas City fans insane. The Buffalo, they're getting there on Friday. These guys are pulling up and camping out. Like, these people are there for days, and it's insane. It's completely insane. So those scenes are really awesome. And to eat, like I said, Atlanta, that's South City Kitchen. That's my favorite spot. Every time we get an Atlanta game, I'm excited. And those are the places that are really, really, really special, and there's plenty of new places. Like, some of these new buildings are amazing, but I like some of the old stuff too. Like the stadium where they're having the Super Bowl in Vegas, it's ridiculous. It's like the eighth wonder of the world. It's pretty cool. But some of the old places are, and I always like the elements. I like football being played in the elements. It's part of the game, right? You have to face the cold. It's not like, it's not always hot. There's snow and there's wind and there's ice, and that makes cool TV pictures too. Like last week.
Don't tell Tua that.
Oh, I know. And I don't want to tell Vilma that because he's a South Florida guy. Yesterday we Zoomed and Vilma had on a coat. I said, Vilma, where the hell are you? He goes, I'm home. I go, why are you wearing a coat? He's like, well, it was like down to like 65 today. I was like, down to 65? Meanwhile, it was like 26 here yesterday, but he always talks about when he lived on Long Island, when he played with the Jets. Oh, I hated the cold. He lived in Smithtown, Long Island.
I hate it too, man. I'm a Florida guy too. I hate it.
He keeps trying to recruit me. He's like, dude, you're coming down here. You got to get out of that Connecticut in the snow. You're coming down here. So anyway, but those are the places that I love. Is just those, like Kansas City. When you come around, like even from a mile away, you can see the smoke from the barbecues and you can smell the meat, man. That's cool, that place. And I like the old Giant Stadium too, man. Old Giant Stadium was rocking.
Well, I noticed you didn't mention MetLife Stadium, so I guess you agree with the players poll.
I love it. He did.
MetLife is fine. I remember we did a Niners-Jets game a couple of years ago where a whole bunch of Niners went down. Remember? Like,
yes.
And we did that game. And look, I'm not qualified to speak about turf and injuries and stuff like that. I know it gets a bad rap, but but then you look at last week, 2-8
Cousins, like you said in Lambeau.
Yeah. And look, last week you had 2-8 versus 3-8, and MetLife was as loud as any place, man. Everybody's got their jersey on, and it's Pats fans and it's Giants fans. And I'll say this, that I don't want to speak for all Giants fans, but Giants fans want their Sunday at 1:00 games. Okay. They don't want to have to sell their tickets because at night, Giants fans are a little bit more traditional, a little bit older. They want their Sunday at 1:00. Just like Lambeau, we did the first Sunday 1:00 game. Everybody likes the night games and all that stuff, but there's still something about a Sunday 1:00 game, man, that's just awesome with everybody gets excited for it. It's not the end of the day and whatever. So I love the Sundays at 1:00. Let's get after it.
Well, Joe Troy and Aaron did 425 at Lambeau. It seemed like every week for about 10 years. So, yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your time. Obviously, you gave us a ton of time, so we really appreciate it. Good luck watching the Jets. You'll be enjoying what our misery is every week. I'll give you one tip. Saleh did say on the Michael K show this week that Trevor will be ready in case it's not going well. So good luck with that. I'm sure you knew that already, but
we'll talk to him tomorrow. We'll see what's on his mind. But yeah, I mean, let's hope there's some offensive linemen that can come back for them, and there's some pieces that can come back. And look, 4-7, you're not dead. They're still in that sort of in the hunt column. There's that third column. Nobody's dead yet. So. And all you need is a turnover here and no more crazy Hail Marys, and they're going to get out and fight like they're 10-1. You know, I don't expect them to do anything but fight.
I hope so.
Yeah, man, you talk about the turnovers. I feel like the Jets have been living off of turnovers. Just have to score the ball. They just have to score.
I mean, you look at the time of possession. I mean,
Ridiculous.
Just the defense
again, like doubled up.
Yeah, the defense is on the field. You can't. They're on the field too long. It was kind of the same thing with the Giants, but they got the win last week and whatever. But you can't. A defense can't be on the field that long. You know, you have these. These 3 and outs, and then you're back on the field, and then these are big dudes. They can't be on the field that long. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. A little bounce here. It's supposed to be raining on Sunday. A little bounce here. A fumble there. Ritter threw a couple of picks last week. The Falcons.
Oh, he's good for a couple every week.
Yeah, but that Falcons defense, I think, is a little spicy. They kept the Saints out of the end zone and Bijan, and you got some good like yesterday when we sat and talked on our Zoom. We already got some things that we're looking out for this week, right? Like, is Sauce going to be on Drake all day? Is AJ Terrell going to travel with Wilson? These are the things that we hope the coaches will give us some inside information on.
I'll tell you right now, the Jets corners don't travel, but
I guess we could dream.
I
hope.
try pushing for that early, Fran.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was like one of the first things we talked about together. DJ's pretty good too, though. So DJ's been one of the best corners in the league. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time again. Fran Morison will all be watching on Sunday, obviously, and now we have a little bit more insight on the background of how everything works. So we appreciate you coming on and helping us out here.
Anytime. Happy to help. Happy to come on anytime you guys want. Enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Regards to Kenny and Vilma.
Absolutely.
All right. Coming back. Thank you to Fran again for that awesome conversation. Like I said, we could have talked. We stayed on actually talking for like 10 minutes after he was done. We could have talked for hours. It was really fun, and he was really generous with his time. But like we said, the Jets have a game on Sunday against the Falcons at home, MetLife Stadium. Bilal, are you going to be there? I have to ask you every week.
No, I'm not. I'll be in Indy. I told you I'll be in Indy.
I know. We talked last time.
And you can look that up online too. Yep. So tune in on Saturday. We play at 10 o'clock a.m. I'll send the link, share the link on Twitter, and I'll share it on Instagram. Tune in to this national team. These guys are playing real football at 6th grade. You'll see it.
Everybody tune in. What you won't see on Instagram is my post that I worked so hard to make. I'm kidding, Bilal. I wanted to throw a dig at you for that. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. Yeah, we'll have to work out the kinks. Sometimes, hey, some are better. They can't all be Tim Boyle stat readings. Like that's the best video we've done so far. So we'll try and recreate that magic once in a while. But people got to tune into the full show because this is where the magic really happens. Like I was listening to the episode and I was like, we just had like 12 minutes where we were really good and like. That like I wanted. It's hard to take like 12 minutes and cut it down to like a 60-second video like that sometimes, where it's like that's great content. So everybody tune in, watch us on YouTube if you feel like watching it. But like I said, Falcons. I have a few stats. This kid reached out to me on Twitter, Jack Spira. I appreciate him. I think I'm saying his name correctly. He's like, hey, I want to get involved in sports. What can I help you with? I was like, hey, if you want to give me some stats every week before the game. So I have 4 stats he's given me, so I'll read them out to you. First of all, Robert Saleh as a head coach, coordinator, 1-6 in his coaching career against the Falcons, so not looking great for the Jets. The second stats he gave me, the Jets are currently on a 4-game losing streak, and this is not great. During that losing streak, they've had 3.5, 5.8, 2.9, and 2.9 yards per play. 5.8 was the game against the Raiders where they just couldn't punch it in. They actually were able to move the ball. The best in the NFL this year is the Miami Dolphins at 6.9 yards per play. The Jets rank 30th with 4.4 yards per play. So not great for the Jets. And they're actually trending down. Their last 3 games, there's 3.9 yards per play. So really rough sledding offensively, as we know, for the Jets. The third stat we have here is also the Jets. We know their offensive line hasn't been great. They are giving up way too many sacks. They're 30th, allowing 4.5 sacks per game in the NFL this year. And they've given up 5 sacks per game in the last 3 games. And if you look at the last 4 games during that losing streak, they gave up 8 sacks for 57-yard loss, 2 sacks for 6-yard loss. Again, that Raiders game was their best game. 6 sacks for 40 yards. That was obviously the Buffalo game. And then 7 sacks for 49 yards last week. Like just ridiculous. Tim Boyle, kind of a statue back there. He can't even escape the pressure. So for all that talk about Tim Boyle getting the ball out of his hands quickly. And then lastly, Bilal Powell in his 2 career games against the Falcons, 26 carries for 71 yards, including a huge third down conversion. Do you remember this? Game-winning drive against Matt Ryan in Atlanta. Geno Smith, I want to say it was one of his first years, maybe his rookie year in 2013. When you had the game-winning drive, you kept the drive alive, and you ultimately ended the game because you converted the third down on like a 3rd and 3. You were stuffed in the backfield. You kept moving those legs, and ultimately, you talked about. We talked last night. There were a couple other running backs on the team, but who got the ball 3rd and 3 game on the line?
It was me. It was definitely me. I think that was Mike Goodson, Chris Ivory. But
Yes,
I remember it was an inside zone to the left, and it was a bus up front. Like from the O-line, like a D lineman just came free.
You got hit immediately, like 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
And I just made like a little spin move, and I think it was like a 6-yard run. I think it was 3rd and 3.
Yep.
It was a 6-yard run. But the difference of me getting tackled 5 yards in the backfield and then making a 6-yard run, 11 yards, made the difference for Nick Foles to come and hit the game-winning field goal.
Yep, you were able to run out the clock.
And Rex Ryan came over to me. Rex came over to me. He said, "Listen, that was the biggest play of the game. Like, I don't think people realize how big that was. Like, that was 11-yard difference. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I remember that one. That was a Monday night game. That was my first time playing in Atlanta, and it was and Jeff Cumberland hit the dirty bird in the end zone. I remember all that. It was a good time.
This week we could use you on the run game. Unfortunately, you're not playing this week, right?
No, I'm not. Only if they need. They didn't call me. If they, call me in like the second quarter. I'll be up there.
Dude, if you could play quarterback for us, that would help. We talked about that. But Atlanta is -3, another team favored on the road against the Jets. They're 5-6. They're not that great. Like, this isn't some sort of great team. Like I said, if Derek Carr threw 3 picks in the red zone last week, they probably win that game. The Saints were the better team last week. Desmond Ridder has been benched. Now he's brought back. So they have their own quarterback issues. They obviously have an incredible running back with Bijan Robinson, what he's been able to do in his rookie season. And, of course, the receivers with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts at tight end. Favored by 3. The over-under 34.5. What do you have? Let's start with this. What's your X factor for this game?
X factor is going to just be run the football. Obviously, we're playing with a 3rd-string quarterback. Just run the football. I mean, I know they're dealing with injuries up front. They dealt with them all year, but they have to find a way to really run the football. Like, you can't keep continuing to force the ball to Garrett Wilson. Like, teams are starting to pick that up. Like, they're just going to put coverage over him, and you're locking in on this guy. So they need to find a way to get the run game going, get it established early. And honestly, I would like to see Izzy get an opportunity this week versus the Falcons. You talked about the Falcons not being a good football team. The New York Jets right now aren't playing
not a
good football. So,
yep.
And I feel like versus the good football teams, they've struggled more than they have with the teams that should have beaten them. So, I would like to see them start fast on defense, create some turnovers on defense, and just on the offensive side of the ball, find a way to get Tim Boyle comfortable. Maybe if it's quick green, establishing the run game early. And the offensive line needs to emphasize this week. Just take care of the quarterback. Take care of the quarterback. Let Tim Boyle go out and be who Tim Boyle was at UConn. That was a crazy stat, and the reason why he's playing in New York, that stat was crazy. And we'll see how the game goes.
I can't do the first play of the game, hand it off, just turn around, hand it off, or run up the middle. I can't see it again. It actually makes more sense to throw the ball on 1st down and then run on 2nd down. I'll tell you why. I have an explanation for this. If you throw the ball on 1st down, quick game. Let's say you gain 2-3 yards. Let's say you gain 6 yards. Let's say it's an incompletion and you gain 0 yards. Now okay. Now we know the situation. 2nd down, let's try and make up that yardage by running the ball. Where we pass it on 1st down. They're probably not expecting us to run it on 2nd down after passing on 1st down. Let's say it was 2nd and 6. Now, let's say it's 2nd and 6. We run the ball for 2 yards. Now we're in 3rd and manageable. Let's say we picked up a 1st down. We could run it. We have 1st down again. We could run it now. I can't handle the Jets coming on the field every single Sunday and their first possession of the game, everyone in the stadium knows they're going to run the first play of the game. You have to change that up like at some point, like kind of like Green Bay did last week on Thanksgiving. First play of the day, boom, big shot downfield for Jordan Love. Jordan Love been struggling a little bit, boom, big shot downfield. I ultimately think we'll see Trevor Siemian in this game. Like I alluded to it a couple of times. I know Saleh alluded to it on the K show. If we see a couple 3-and-outs and the defense has to be on the field for a long time, I think we will see Trevor Siemian. And I think he's better than Tim Boyle, so I'm excited to see it. My X factor in the game is going to be the linebackers against Bijan. I think, he's the best weapon on Atlanta's offense. So I'd like to see they also have a running quarterback. So that zone read option is going to be interesting. So really CJ and Quincy, they've been great all year. They have to have another great game. It sucks that it always falls on the defense. But I think this is a winnable game for the Jets, even though they're 3-point underdogs at home. What do you have as your final score prediction in this game?
The final score prediction is 13-10. I'll have to go with the Jets. I go with the Jets, 13-10.
I'm right there with you. I think this is a spot for the Jets to steal a game. If you don't win this game, like I said, 5 losses in a row after losing 6 in a row last year, with how ugly it's looked, this game, if they lose, the coaching staff should get fired immediately. So I think 16-13 Jets win. I think it's a desperation spot for the Jets. They have to win this game at home. And then it gives a little bit more juice to the Rodgers stuff later in the week. All right, 5-7. Let's look around. Cincinnati's out of it. Cleveland's in quarterback hell. Look at what Denver did, where they rallied and won a few games. I think it just gives them a little juice. They have to win.
Yeah, they rallied that with a good quarterback, though.
Yeah, but so what? You know what I mean? Just find a way. You guys are NFL athletes. This isn't Atlanta's not world beaters. Just find a way. It's one game. So you have the Jets scoring 1 touchdown, as do I. Who's your touchdown scorer for this game?
I'm going to say Brees. I think Brees.
I'm going to say Brees too. Brees got.
I think he has a big game this year.
He took some criticism from Saleh in the media. He took it in stride. He said, "Hey man, I have to be better. I like constructive criticism." I think he's going to go out there trying to prove a point. I like Brees to score in this game. If that's all you got, that's all I got. Until next time, hopefully we're talking about a victory Monday. Fingers crossed. Woo-hoo. Great episode as always, Bilal. I'll talk to you, all right?
Have a good one.
See ya.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.